Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next common question comes from Cedric. There's bands, I think it is. Sorry, the eyes weren't focusing on that. Anyway, again, this was in response to how to set up your Roland TR-8. A video I did way back in 2015, December 2015. And Cedric writes, "Hi, I've got this machine for ages and wonder if it's possible to send MIDI notes from the bass drum to MIDI out. I want to trigger the TR-8 to trigger a dedicated kickbox, still using the TR-8 sequencer." And I had to apologise because this, for whatever reason, this question was raised quite a while ago and it just slipped through the filters. And normally what YouTube does is if you don't respond to something within 60 days, it just wipes the question off. And this one didn't get wiped off and then all of a sudden appeared in the list. So I think YouTube had obviously done something with its algorithm and its display filters. And it does it every now and then. All of a sudden the displays go all wonky for about 2 or 3 weeks until they've worked out that they've made a complete hash of it. Fix it. But quite often you see this on YouTube as a creator. You put something on YouTube and it just doesn't quite work and you can't work out what's going on. And it's because YouTube have made a change. And they're always making changes. You know, this is half the game is to try and get stuff up. And this is the reason why I'm making a real conscious effort now to be posting a fairly chunky amount of time in advance. So if you do follow me on, if you look at the YouTube channel, you'll see there's a whole raft of videos on the YouTube channel that you guys can't access, but they're there, they're displayed. And that's all to do with the fact of how YouTube is publishing. And if you're a member of the channel, as in you've subscribed to the channel on YouTube, you can get access to all those videos that you can see but can't access as a standard user. Or Patreon, you can see the same thing on Patreon. Anyway, I kind of digress, but that's reality of how the YouTube environment works. Anyway, I'm hoping that you got an answer, but the simple answer is yes, that every instrument on Roland drum machines, and I'm being very generic here, but this is my experience. Every Roland drum machine maps the instrument to a key on a keyboard. So the bass drum will be one, the snare drum will be another, the closed hi-hat will be another, the open hi-hat is something else, but they don't follow sequence normally. Okay, so just to be aware of that. So the bass drum is not always the first. And it doesn't say go for C, D, E, F, G. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Somebody will probably tell me there is a reason why, but it tends to go something like C, D sharp, E, F, F sharp. Yeah, it's kind of like that a little bit. And it's, and also it's concentrated in 1 or 2 octaves of the keyboard as well. So normally concentrated either side of middle C, but not necessarily always like that. But yes, they will always map to a key on a keyboard. So the answer is you can use the sequencer on a TR-8 to trigger other instruments if they are listening A, on the right channel, B, you are using, you've got your MIDI out connected and set on the TR-8, whether you're using MIDI USB or whether you're using standard 5 pin in, you need to have it connected. And B, the instrument or thing you're trying to get to trigger on the bass drum is listening to the right note on the keyboard. And as far as I'm aware, everything I've seen, I've not seen anything where it says you can reprogram the key that the TR-8 is outputting the instrument on, okay? And it all seems to be fairly hard-coded. I'm sure you probably can if you get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I've never seen a document that actually says how you can manipulate where on the keyboard the instrument outputs to. I've always pretty much taken it as hard-coded. So with a bit of luck, that answers your question. Normally it's the other machine you've got to worry about because it probably is not got the sound you want on the note that you want to trigger on. Okay, the next comment question comes from Synth Club, and it actually was in response to Roland Fantom, still not class compliant. I had a Yamaha CX-5M in 1984. Mailbag I did in December 2024. Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest, and I've been honest every time I've mentioned the Roland Fantom. I do not own a Roland Fantom. Okay, I don't have one in the studio, and I don't have one to verify what is being said here is true or not. But there are many people out there in YouTube land who keep saying that the Roland Fantom is not class compliant. Okay? And Synth Club says, actually, it is class compliant. It was updated 3 years ago. So, the Roland Fantom allows you to change the USB driver setting, and the available options are vendor. This setting requires you to install the Roland USB driver on your computer for the Fantom. Allows you to transfer both MIDI and audio through the USB connection. This is the usual setting used when connecting to a computer via USB. Second option is generic. This setting does not require the Roland USB driver to be installed. It instead uses the built-in driver on your computer's operating system and is also referred to as class compliant. This is a good option when the USB driver is not available for your computer or you are connecting to an iOS device. Here are the steps to change the USB driver settings on the Fantom. On the Fantom, go into the menu button. Touch System to enter the System menu. Use the left-hand knob under the screen to select the General tab and on the left-hand side of the screen. Touch USB driver on the screen and use the dial to select vendor or generic. Finally, press the right button to save this setting, then power off and power back on again your Fantom, and the new setting will be available. So, as I said, I don't have a Roland Fantom. I can't validate what has been said here. I suspect that you probably you need to be on one of the more latest firmware versions for the Fantom to make this work, but apparently it is class compliant. So I do thank Synth Club for supplying this information to all those of you on the channel that turn around and say it isn't class compliant, because he's saying it is. And I am generally confused about whether one or the other. Is it just that this is not very well documented in the Roland documentation? And I've already had a conversation with somebody today about Roland documentation, so I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't blindingly obvious in the Roland documentation. And let's face it, most musicians never read the book anyway. We get the keyboard, we open it up, we switch it on and start playing it, and completely forget to actually understand the capabilities of the machine you've just spent X number of pounds on. Anyway, hopefully that helps a number of you out there that say it is not class compliant. What I don't understand from this conversation is, if there is a Roland driver and it can use the generic driver, you must be losing something.